حتى إذا بلغ بين السدين وجد من دونهما قوما لا يكادون يفقهون قولا. Suwratul-Kahfi, Surah 18, ayat number 93. The last verse number 92, was Thumma atba'a sababan, and so this verse continues, verse number 93 continues hatta, until. So just like the previous two occurrences, this construct follows a similar pattern, something something and then until. Otherwise this until will not make any sense if it's the beginning of a sentence in the English language. So we have to connect that. Thumma atba'a sababan, then he followed a third way. Hatta, until, idha balaga, when he reached, and then the verse continues. So now that it makes sense, we will proceed with today's translation, and this session will be a little lighter. The difficult part has already been covered in connection to the last verse. That was, the bashing has gone, now the explanation will follow. Hatta, until, idha, when, balaga, he reached. Baina is between, asaddaini is, okay, how do I say? So asaddaini is it's in dual form in the Arabic language, it's in the dual form. So you can say the two barriers. Now the two barriers, barrier usually considered as one, right? Barrier. Why does it say the two barriers? For that, we'll have to go back to yesterday's session where we said that was a third journey and that was a northward journey. We know it from the historical and geographical sort of perspective. Otherwise, it's not possible to know because these are not explicitly mentioned. So the first journey was the westward journey. The second journey was the eastward journey, and the third journey, which is this one, is the northward journey. So basically so the first journey, he reached the Black Sea. We remember that. And the second journey, okay, the second journey, actually I give you one opinion. There are two opinions and both are sort of, it makes sense, and I have a way to explain that as well. The second journey is towards the Caspian Sea. And I did say Pakistan because that was also another interpretation. So the Caspian Sea, the surrounding regions, they are rich in minerals, and even Pakistan is rich in minerals for that case. So both are plausible explanations. Now, how to reconcile the two? It is also possible that Dhul-Qarnayn alayhi salam, in his second journey, he stopped by the Caspian Sea, found some primitive people, and then he proceeded further towards the east. And in the region we today know as Pakistan, he again met with some primitive people. So that could be, so the totality of the journey, the eastward journey, where he met primitive people on two occasions, that could also be a way to reconcile that. Okay, so this northward journey, now he is blocked by this barrier. And what is there? There is basically the Caucasus mountain ranges. And there used to be a gap. I mean, the gap still exists now. The gap would be filled eventually by Dhul-Qarnayn al-Islam at his time, and then the wall would eventually not be non-existent later on. It will not be there anymore. So that's the backdrop of the historical narrative. So this is a barrier, and rightly the Quran uses the word saddain. There are two more words that will come up, two or three more words that will come up, and we'll have a detailed explanation from the historical and the geographical perspective in a little bit more details once we cover all of those. But this is just the introduction to the northward journey, so we'll keep it at that. So between the two barriers, it sounds strange. Some of the translators or the scholars have translated as between the two mountains. Two mountains? Not really. Two mountain ranges is better if that were to be a way to represent the translation. But the Caucasus is a single mountain range, right? So the way I have translated it to make sense of it is something like this. So the basic meaning is a barrier. The mountain range is acting as a barrier in this case. He reached between the two disconnected parts of a mountain range, acting almost as a contiguous barrier. So that is the way to sort of, according to me, the best way with the limitations of the English language to present what is being mentioned over here. So, hatta idha balagha bayna as-saddaini, which is in the dual form, until when he reached between the two disconnected parts of a mountain range, acting almost as a contiguous barrier. Wajada, he found. Min dunihima, okay. Duni is beside, okay. Hima, the two, beside the two. So now, if there is a mountain range, and in the story we'll come to know as the historical narrative we'll come to know as we read ahead. So on this side of, so if there is a mountain range on this side of the valley, there were the people whom he met, and from the other side, using that pass, because you see the two barriers, so there's a gap. So there's a pass, and then people infiltrated. Who infiltrated will come to know in the next few verses. I guess in the next verse itself, they infiltrated and caused destruction on this side. So that interaction is about to happen. These people are requesting Zulkarnain, or will request in Zulkarnain al-Islam, as we will read ahead, to sort of help them out of these perpetrators of destruction, so to say. So, min dunihima, the best way to translate is from beside them, beside the two, because there are two parts, disconnected parts of the mountain range, you understand. He found by the hither side, on this side, in the inhabited valley area of it, what did he find? Qawban, a community. Get it? So on the hither side of the inhabited valley area of it, of that single thing, but the dual will be used because there are two parts, disconnected parts of the mountain range. Now then, so this part I hope is clear. He found by the hither side in the inhabited valley area of it a community, a community of it, because we are treating it as a single thing, because the valley itself is continuous and the people living there, they're treating it as a continuous region. It's a specific area where they lived in, which was sort of protected by the two parts of the mountain range, and the other side they use the pass to infiltrate and come to this side. And then it continues. La is no, so we'll insert the no. You know by now that no we insert at the appropriate place. Yakaduna, kada yakadu, so this is the present tense form, almost. Why is it in plural? Because it is referring to the members of the community, which are plural, right? Yakaduna, almost. So again, we will fit this appropriately. No and almost, we cannot start the English sentence with no and almost. Doesn't work. English doesn't work that way. Arabic harf is always at the beginning. Yafqahuna. So they comprehended. They could not comprehend. La is there. They could not comprehend. First, I'll give the first iteration, and then I'll go a little bit deeper. There's not much scope to go very deep in this. Whatever intricacies were there, I have already covered, specifically with respect to Baina Saddain and Min Dunihim. I've already covered that. Yafqahuna, so again in plural, so they comprehended, they did not comprehend, they could not comprehend. La is there, right? They, who is the they? The community is singular, it's collective noun. So the members, clearly the members are being referred. So instead of they, we connected whose members? Whose members almost could not comprehend. Qawlan, any speech. Now this should be strange, but I'll give you a little bit more information. Obviously, we'll have to have a detailed discussion, because this story from yesterday's discussion, you are clear that this relates to the Gog and Magog. So we need to have a very detailed discussion, but that will be towards the end of the story, not at this point of time. So whose members almost could not comprehend any speech, qawlan, any speech. And why is this strange? This is strange. Okay, so the world, either there always the world has a superpower or some superpowers. And even amongst those superpowers, whether it is bipolar or multipolar, irrespective of that, one of them assumes the role of a ruling state. It's more powerful than the rest of the superpowers. That's been always the case with the world. So Zulkarnain alayhi salam, the status of Zulkarnain alayhi salam as a prophet king, he was the ruling state of that time. He was the ruling state at that time. So his kingdom. So he was blessed with resources. We know all about that, right? So now the rest of the people, whichever state becomes the ruling state, the rest of the people, they have a tendency to acquire that language, isn't it? So because that becomes the what should I say, the global lingua franca, the de facto world language. So the rest of the people, these people not able to understand and communicate with Zulkarnain would seem rather strange. Now, another pointer is that where is this? I have told you this is the Caucasus mountain range, and there is Georgia over there. And interestingly, if you do a deep study into linguistics, so many factors are coming in: history, geography, linguistics, diverse subjects are coming in, and only then will you develop an understanding and an appreciation of what the Quran has to offer. The Georgian language is unrelated to any other language. So that would actually give us indication, a cue as to why they could not understand. It's unconnected. So many languages are connected to each other, but Georgian is different. And why people would sort of be influenced by the ruling state and their languages, because look at the recent history. So at one point of time, Britain served as the ruling state in the world. They were superpowers, but it was the major superpower and acted as the ruling state in the world. And the influence of English spread because of that, primarily because of that. And then one day, that ruling state was no more, and America assumed that role and became the ruling state. And what caused or triggered the transition, that's a different story. And in what age are we living in, that's a different story, that's a different discussion. Who acts as the ruling state now, those are different discussions. We can discuss those, but that's not really related to the topic as such. But we can discuss, and we will discuss inshallah in the future in other topics, in other relevant topics, in separate discussions. So just one more thing I have to inform you. So fiqh, yafqahuna, the fiqh, the word, so it's a deep understanding. So that's why I have mentioned they almost could not comprehend, they almost could not develop a deep understanding of any speech, whose members almost could not develop a deep understanding of any speech in the sense of what Zulkarnain al-Islam was speaking. Or maybe the people who were with Zulkarnain al-Islam, they spoke multiple languages, but none of those they were able to interact in. So there was a ruling state, there was a primary language, and there were other languages connected to that, but they were clueless. And why are we saying they almost could not comprehend? Because eventually they found a way to sort of communicate with each other through whatever mechanism, sign language or whatever bits and pieces of words, irrespective of that, irrespective of the mechanism. So that happened. So they almost could not comprehend any speech, that fiqh and how it relates, a deep understanding. So they were able to develop some understanding, some way to communicate. That's why this fiqh is also important, though it seems counterintuitive, but that's why primarily the word is used over here. I think we are good. Yeah, I think we're good with this verse. So this was primarily focused on the explanation, the northward journey, the hitting the Caucasus mountain range. There's a gap over there. We'll elaborate more on that as well. The Black Sea on the one side, the Caspian Sea on the other side. Perhaps that journey was to the Caspian Sea was a stopover. It seemed the dead end, because it's the largest lake, by the way, in the world. And there they met primitive people, and they have natural resources. In connection to what the natural resource, what did we say in the last verse? In connection to the last verse, Kadhalika. You remember? And then after that stopover, maybe he sort of proceeded further towards the east and reached as far as it seems what is today referred to as the Pakistan region. And then there's obviously the Indus River. So another sort of major water body, and then they stopped and they decided not to pass over that. So that is the whole story, sort of reconciling both the viewpoints, and that seems to be the most logical case. Anyway, so we'll read it one more time, but what we'll do, because we did this previously also when we encountered verse number 85 and 89 and then 92. So we connected it to the next, when we read 86 and 90, we connected it to 85 and 92. So similarly, 93 will connect it to 92. So we'll read it once again then. ثم أتبع سببا حتى إذا بلغ بين السدين وجد من دونهما قوما لا يكادون يفقهون قولا. Then he followed a third way until when he reached between the two disconnected parts of a mountain range acting almost as a contiguous barrier. He found by the hither side, in the inhabited valley area of it, a community whose members almost could not comprehend any speech.